Action creation. Hi guys, sometimes we need to edit a large number of images in the same style. For example, you have shot a whole series and you need to increase the contrast or add the sharpness or something else in all the photos. In this case, action creation can help you. That is, recording a certain sequence of your actions, which you can apply to different images. And also, action creation can be useful if you have found a very interesting way to tint in a photo or some other interesting processing, and you want to keep it for yourself in order to be able to use the technique that you came up with in the future. Or for example, you found some interesting lesson on the internet. You can, in the same way, while doing the lesson, record the entire sequence of your actions directly in Photoshop, and in the future, to reproduce this effect, you just need to press one button. And all this with the help of a function called action. By the way, you can also download action from the internet and apply it to your images. The point of action creation is that you record a certain sequence of your actions, so that in the future you can apply it to a single photo and process a large number of photos at once. And to do this, you literally need to make a few mouse movements, and you can go drink tea, while 5,000 photos are processed in one style. Well, maybe it will happen faster than you finish drinking your tea. First, let's find out where we have these actions. We need to open a window, select Actions, and you'll have a palette of actions. There are already some actions that were created by Photoshop developers for our convenience, and we can use them. In order for everything to look the same for us now, let's go here and choose Restore Actions. Okay, this is how the action looks at the moment when you first open this palette. There are already selected some processing options that you can use. For example, if we want to use one of the actions, we select the action we need. Well, for example, the colors of the quadrant, and click this arrow. After that, our photo is processed in the style of quadrant colors. Please note that we have made some changes in the layers palette as well. That is, we made only one movement, clicked the mouse once, but we had a copy of the layer made. And then some processing was also done. If you click on this arrow, then we will see a list of all the actions. You see, a lot of them were made in order to process this photo in this way. And we will strive to do the same. That is, we will do a certain sequence of actions, and it will be recorded. And in the same way, by clicking once with the mouse, we will be able to reproduce it. Let's go back through the history to the source. Let's see what we can do with our image. For example, we can select a gradient map. Click the arrow, and we will have such a toning. And pay attention, in the layers palette we have a gradient map layer. And if we expand it, we'll also see the entire sequence of actions that was performed. The sequence occurs by default with the settings that were set, which were originally set when creating this action, but perhaps we'll want to change some of the settings somehow. Let's go back through the history to the source. Let's go back to the gradient map and put this icon here, and run it again. Now look, Photoshop asks us a permission to perform this action. For example, you could now go to the second action to create a new layer of the gradient map. Well, for example, change the opacity and the blending mode. Set multiply. Okay, then the next action. We can also make some changes here. For example, like this. Okay, and as a result, we got a completely different toning. Thus, this icon here allows us not just to perform all actions automatically, but to make some other adjustments to them. Of course, all these actions that you see now are not all actions that developers offer us as ready-made actions. I will go back to the original one again. Go to the Actions palette. Click here and take a look. Here we have some other actions that we can edit, in addition to those that we see right away. You can choose what you like. Let me choose the effects for the image. Look, I have opened such a large folder in which there are many different effects that can be applied. For example, and I'll get this effect. Probably not bad for creating different winter photos. And cancel this effect. I cancelled this effect, and I want to show you that you can use not only one action for one photo, but we can perform several actions in order to get the effect we need. For example, to begin with, I choose I click. I have this kind of processing going on. Then, for example, I choose and click again. I had this kind of processing. Then, for example, I choose click again. And as a result, I got such a creative photo. Of course, you can choose any option that you like and do some processing of this photo. And now let's try to create our own action. To do this, we need to click on this icon. We'll create a new set. Here is what we saw before this effect, and we can create any number of such sets. So we have a set in which we will put our actions, and now we will make our first action. Click this button and set the name of our first action. If you want to invoke this action later with one key, then you can choose the key with which you will invoke it. You can also set some color to make it easy to find this action later. Let's say red. So the most interesting moment comes. We are starting recording. Click the record button. Here you see the warning, but we won't need the cut command in this case. So we will agree. But in principle, if you have any concerns about this, then you can of course not show it. In principle, to be honest, you don't use keyboard shortcuts when I use actions. Look, we have a red light on, and this means that we have started recording. But it doesn't just go on all the time, but it goes on when we perform some actions. So, first I will create an adjustment layer called Channel Mixer. Here I have created it. Please note, immediately I had an action called Make an Adjustment Layer. In this adjustment layer, I go to the blue channel and I set the settings. As a result, I got such a tinting. But I will not stop there, because we still have such a multipass. So we will choose another adjustment layer, and this time it will be gradient map. Here I will choose the transition, like that. Let's change the blending mode to soft light. Please note that all my actions are reflected in the actions palette. The tinting is ready for. And now I want to create a composite layer and edit noise, and then filter, noise, edit noise. Okay, like that. Such processing. Look, it is recorded. If we think that our work is completed, click on this icon. Everything is ready. Our action is ready. Let's take another look at the layers palette. Look, here we also have all our actions. If you go to the history palette and see what our image originally looked like, then it was like this. And we did this kind of processing. At the same time, we recorded this processing as an action. And for example, I would like to apply this processing now to other photos. Let's try it. Let's see what our effect will look like if we apply it to this photo. Go to the Actions palette. We find our toning that we have created and click this arrow. And literally, instantly processing takes place. Let's try another example. Let's take this photo and just click on the arrow in the same way. Processing is ready. It is very simple. And imagine you are going through some kind of difficult lesson, where there are a lot of some effects, different settings, some nuances, but you really like this processing, and you are just in the process of doing some kind of lesson from YouTube. You just turn on the recording beforehand, and all your actions are recorded. And then, even if you lose this lesson and after a while you want to reproduce what you liked, you can easily do it. But to do this, you need to save. To do this, select the tin folder in which your operation is located. Click here and choose Save Action. After that, you can save your action to any place that you like. Create some kind of folder and save it there. If you install Photoshop or you want to send the action you created to someone or put it on the internet, you will have to save it this way. That is, you can click Just Save, and that's it. There is already one in the folder you have selected. Your action already exists, and you will have it in your Actions palette. And if you want to return this action to your palette again later, then you will choose Upload Actions. I hope this is understandable. Let's move on to the homework. The first task will be to use ready-made actions and create some kind of processing of this image at your discretion. The second homework task will be to create an action, like mine, maybe another one, it doesn't matter. You choose the processing style that interests you. You record this as an action and process 3 photos. If you want, you can choose 3 of your photos, because well, maybe you come up with something that doesn't fit these photos very well. In general, I am waiting for your work. It was Peter Romanov and AIM School. See you next time.